Captain Area Jennings stood on the bridge of the research vessel Odyssey, eyes wide with wonder. Outside the viewport, the glowing clouds of the Vela Prime nebula stretched like ribbons of color. The hum of the engines filled the air, and gentle lights blinked on the control panels. Area wore his crisp Navy uniform, the badge of the United Earth Exploration Fleet shining on his chest. He felt proud and nervous. This mission was the biggest of his career. "Captain, I'm picking up a large ship on sensors," Lieutenant Ramos said softly. Her dark hair was tied back in a tight bun, and she pointed at the holographic display above her console. Area stepped forward. The display showed a sleek starship, shaped like a circle with sharp wings on each side. Strange markings glowed along its hull. The ship moved closer and closer through the purple mist of the nebula. "Open a channel," Area ordered. "Let's see if they want to talk." On the main screen, a tall, pale figure appeared. She wore a long gown of silver fabric that caught the light. On her head, a small crown floated just above her pale blue hair. Her eyes were bright green, and they glowed with calm confidence. She stood on a bridge that looked like a palace room, all marble and columns. "Greetings, Captain Jennings," she said in perfect common, the universal language. Her voice was soft, but carried honor. "I am Princess Lyra of the Vela Prime Empire. Welcome to our space." Area bowed his head. "Princess Lyra," he replied. "It is an honor. I am Captain Area Jennings of Earth's Exploration Fleet. We come in peace." Lyra nodded once, then raised her hand. A delicate spark of light danced on her palm. Area felt a chill as the princess's eyes locked on him. In that moment, time seemed to slow. The hum of the Odyssey faded, the lights dimmed, and all he could feel was her gaze. The bridge crew held their breath. Even the engines seemed quiet. Then Lyra moved her hand forward and pointed directly at Area. "I choose this human," she announced, her voice echoing around the deck. A gasp rose from the crew. Ramos's hand flew to her mouth. Area himself froze, unsure how to react. The princess's declaration was clear and powerful. Every diplomat knew that Vela Prime royalty never chose allies so boldly. This was unheard of. Area swallowed hard. His heart pounded in his ears. He glanced at his crew. They wore expressions of shock and confusion. The screen glowed with Lyra's calm face. She lowered her hand and waited. Silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. Then Area found his voice. "Princess Lyra," he said, bowing deeply. "I am humbled by your choice. I accept your honor." Lyra inclined her head. Behind her, the grand columns of her palace bridge shimmered. On the Odyssey, the crew recovered and murmured among themselves. Area straightened, determination filling him. This moment changed everything. A human and an alien princess, bound by an unexpected decision. The future felt both thrilling and uncertain, and Area Jennings knew he would never forget the day the alien princess pointed at him and said, "I choose this human." The great hall aboard Princess Lyra's royal starship gleamed with polished white floors and tall crystal windows. Under soft, golden lights, hundreds of royal courtiers and high-ranking officers gathered in neat rows. Area Jennings stood at the center beside Lyra. He felt the weight of every pair of alien eyes upon him. His human uniform felt strange among the elaborate robes and shining armor of the Vela Prime Empire's elite. Lyra wore her silver gown, trimmed with delicate filigree that glowed faintly where the light caught it. Her crown rested lightly on her hair. She stood tall and calm, her bright green eyes fixed on Area. He straightened his posture and took a steady breath. Around him, the hush of the audience reminded him how far he was from Earth. An ornate dais stood before them. On it, a large seat carved from pale blue crystal waited empty. Two alien guards, dressed in dark uniforms with silver pauldrons, held glowing spears at their sides. A silent tension filled the hall. A herald stepped forward. He wore a long robe of deep purple and spoke in a clear, resonant voice that echoed from the high ceiling. By command of Her Royal Highness, Princess Lyra, the herald began, the Vela Prime Empire welcomes its first human ally. Let this ceremony bind our peoples in trust and honor. A ripple of polite applause ran through the crowd. Arya focused on Lyra, who nodded once. With a graceful motion, she extended her hand and touched Arya's shoulder. The silver filigree on her sleeve glowed brighter. He felt a warm pulse at the point of contact, as if energy flowed between them. Arya Jennings of Earth, Lyra said, her voice carrying through the hall. I present to you the emblem of Vela Prime. Wear it as a symbol of our bond, and know that our worlds stand united. An attendant knelt and held out a small circular emblem. It was a medallion of polished metal, etched with the twin symbols of Earth and Vela Prime, joined by a ring of stars. Arya accepted it with both hands, keeping his gaze on Lyra. He felt pride and wonder mix in his chest. As he pinned the emblem on his uniform, the crystal windows behind them rolled open. Through the opening, the vastness of space was visible, stars and nebulae stretching into infinity. The sight reminded Arya why he became an explorer, to connect with new worlds. Lyra stepped back and smiled gently. From this day forward, she declared, our ships will sail together. Our scientists will share their knowledge. Our soldiers will train side by side. Let this union bring peace and strength to both our peoples. The crowd broke into applause that echoed like rolling thunder. Arya raised his hand in a salute. He felt the warmth of acceptance wash over him. Around him, the royal court began to mingle. Officers approached Arya to offer nods of respect. A few curious diplomats whispered greetings in broken common. Lieutenant Ramos, watching from the side, caught Arya's eye and gave him a thumbs up. He smiled back, grateful for the familiar gesture. Despite the alien surroundings, he was not alone. As the ceremony ended, Lyra guided Arya toward a side chamber. There, a long table held an array of glowing fruits and fragrant teas. Aliens and humans would share this first meal together. Arya followed her, excitement and nerves mingling. He knew the day's events would shape history. The royal decree had been made, and the impossible bond between a human captain and an alien princess stood firm. The real work, building trust and friendship, was only beginning. The dining chamber on Princess Lyra's ship felt both grand and welcoming. Soft lights glowed from crystal chandeliers overhead. Walls were lined with tall windows showing stars drifting by. Long tables held plates of foods both human and Vela Prime in origin. There were colorful fruits, spiced grains, and glistening crystal bowls of soup. Arya Jennings walked beside Lyra, learning to move with a measured grace. Lyra turned to him, green eyes bright. Please, Captain, she said in gentle common, help yourself. These are our favorite dishes. She pointed to a platter of star-shaped fruits that smelled sweet and tangy. Arya picked up a piece and bit into it. The taste was juicy and fresh, unlike any fruit on earth. He smiled. It's delicious, Princess. Lyra nodded and took a bite herself, her expression thoughtful. Around them, human crew and Vela Prime officers mingled. Some humans laughed at unfamiliar foods, while alien guests studied the humans' simple dishes with polite curiosity. Arya watched a young Vela officer dip roasted vegetables into a dish of Earth-style sauce. The officer frowned, then tried again with a smile when it tasted good. Humans value variety in food, Arya explained to Lyra. We use spices and sauces to add flavor. Lyra listened intently. She sipped a warm tea that changed color in her cup. Your customs are different, but I like learning, she said. This is the first time I share a meal with another species. Arya felt proud. Building trust began with small moments like this. He offered Lyra a piece of earth bread, soft and warm. She accepted and tore off a small piece, her pale blue hair falling forward. He realized how human their actions could feel, even in a starship dining hall far from Earth. Suddenly, alarms sounded. Red lights flashed along the corridor. A voice echoed in the chamber. Intruders detected on outer hull. Security teams to stations. Lyra's calm face turned serious. This way, area. She led him through a side door into a narrow corridor. Outside, the hum of the engines and the distant stars were replaced by the sound of hurried footsteps. They reached the armor bay where Lyra's royal guards stood ready. The guards wore sleek armor and held energy rifles that glowed softly. Arya saw the concern in their eyes. "Aliens rarely board our vessels," one guard murmured. Lyra raised her hand. "I choose Captain Jennings to lead this response," she announced. The guards looked to Arya. He straightened his shoulders. "I will help protect your ship, Princess." She nodded and stepped back, allowing him to give orders. Arya turned to the nearest guard. "Form a perimeter around the docking airlock. I'll check the situation inside." The guard bowed. "As you command, Captain." Arya and a squad of mixed human and Vela Prime soldiers rushed down the corridor. He felt the weight of responsibility. Behind him, Lyra watched with a steady gaze. Together, they reached the airlock door. Strange marks of damage showed on the hull outside. Arya placed his hand on the scanner and opened the door. Inside the docking bay, two figures in dark suits tried to break open the supply crates. They froze when the door hissed open. Arya leveled his sidearm. "Drop your tools and raise your hands." One intruder threw up his arms. "We come in peace," he shouted. Arya motioned for the guards. They surrounded the intruders and secured them. Back in the corridor, Lyra joined him. "Thank you, Captain," she said softly. Arya nodded, still alert. "We must find who sent them." Lyra's eyes gleamed with determination. Together, they set off deeper into the ship, ready to uncover the truth behind the attack. After the intruders were secured, Captain Arya Jennings and Princess Lyra moved deeper into the ship. The corridors here were narrower, with walls of polished metal and softly glowing strips of light. Arya felt the steady hum of the engines under his boots. Lyra walked beside him, her silver gown brushing the floor, her crown shining faintly. "We must find out who sent them," Lyra said in calm common. "Our security protocols failed." She led Arya to the ship's central security hub, a room lined with holographic displays and control consoles. A young officer at a console looked up. "Princess, Captain, the intruders disable the external sensor array." "They might have hidden their approach," he reported. On the main holoscreen, static covered part of the nebula view. Arya studied the screen. "They came from that direction," he said, pointing to the static area. "They may have been hiding behind debris." Lyra watched thoughtfully. "Send a warning to nearby patrols," Arya instructed. "We need backup." The officer tapped commands. "Done, Captain." Lyra nodded. "Our people will come." She turned to Arya. "Stay here and monitor the situation. I must address my advisors." She led him to a smaller room off the hub. Inside, several of Lyra's senior advisors stood around a circular table. They wore formal robes and held data tablets. The head advisor, Lord Thanis, bowed as Lyra entered. "Your Highness, what do you wish?" Thanis asked. Lyra's green eyes were firm. "I need answers. Who would attack my ship, and why?" She looked at Arya. "Captain, I trust you will help us find the truth." Arya inclined his head. "I will do my best." He glanced at Thanis. "Have these advisors reviewed the ship's logs?" Thanis nodded and tapped his tablet. A holo projection showed a list of cargo shipments and personnel movements. "The last shipment was delivered to our science labs," Thanis said. "Nothing unusual." Lyra frowned. Perhaps the attackers wanted something in those labs. She turned to Arya. "Can we access the lab logs?" Arya moved to a console at the table's edge. "Give me a moment." He tapped the datapad. Within seconds, the table's projection switched to a map of the ship with highlighted areas. "Here," he said, pointing. "The lab corridors show forced entry attempts. They focused on these 3 rooms." Lyra studied the map. "This one is the xenobiology lab, my personal research," she said. "The other two are secured storage." She looked at Arya. "We should go there." Arya nodded. "Lead the way." They left the advisory room and hurried down a corridor toward the labs. Guards accompanied them, their rifles ready. At the entrance to the xenobiology lab, the door panel flickered with red warning lights. Arya placed his hand on the scanner. The door opened with a hiss. Inside, glass tanks lined the walls, each holding the strange creature. Some had tentacles that drifted in liquid. Others resembled glowing insects. The room smelled of antiseptic and alien flora. Lyra's face tightened. "My work. They might destroy years of research." She moved to a tank and checked its seal. It was intact. "That is good." Suddenly, in the storage room next door, alarms blared. Arya drew his sidearm. "That way." He and Lyra ran to the storage lab. The door was open, and empty shelves showed where supplies once sat. A broken crate lay on the floor. Lyra knelt and picked up a small data drive. "They left this." Arya took it. "It might tell us who hired them." He checked the drive's cover. "Encrypted, but we can decrypt it in the hub." They shared a determined look. The enemy had struck, but they had found a clue. Together, a human captain and an alien princess headed back to Security Hub, ready to reveal the next piece of the puzzle. Captain Arya Jennings and Princess Lyra hurried back to the central Security Hub. The soft glow of console lights guided them through the corridors. Arya held the small encrypted data drive carefully. Beside him, Lyra's silver gown shimmered under the lights. Her pale blue hair was tied back, and her green eyes shone with determination. Once inside the hub, the young officer who first helped them greeted them. "Princess, Captain, what did you find?" he asked. Lyra stepped forward and handed the drive to the officer. "This drive was left behind in the storage lab. It may hold the key to who attacked us." The officer nodded and slid the drive into a port on his console. Holographic screens flickered as the system read the data. Arya and Lyra watched the progress bar fill slowly. "Encryption is heavy," the officer said. "It will take a moment." Lyra moved to a nearby terminal. "I will help," she offered. She tapped commands with confidence. The display showed code lines and progress updates. Arya observed the readouts. "Once decrypted, look for any names or ship IDs. That can point us to the attackers." The officer nodded. After a tense minute, the screens flashed green. "Decryption complete," the officer announced. A file list appeared. He selected the top file, and images and text scrolled across the hologram. Lyra read aloud, "Transport Manifest, signed by Lucan Mercantile." Arya frowned. "Lucan Mercantile. They are a private shipping company known for questionable deals." He glanced at Lyra. "They might have supplied the attackers." The manifest showed the delivery of a small device labeled Prototype X8. Lyra's eyes widened. "That is the super weapon control module. We keep it hidden for safety." She turned to Arya. "Someone tried to steal it." Arya nodded. "If they activate it, they could control the weapon from afar. That is why they attacked." He straightened. "We need to secure the module." Lyra agreed. "The X8 is stored in the deep vault on level 3. Only I and my highest officers know its location." She tapped her comm badge. "Seal all corridors to the vault and move the module to the inner sanctum." The officer sent the order. Guards stationed at every junction. Arya and Lyra followed the route to level 3. The vault door loomed large and heavy. It was made of reinforced alloy with glowing runes of power etched into it. Lyra placed her hand on a crystal panel. It glowed under her touch. The rooms along the door lit up. With a low rumble, the vault opened to reveal a small chamber. Inside, the X8 module sat on a raised pedestal. It was a sleek device no larger than Arya's hand, with smooth edges and a single glowing core. Lyra stepped forward, her expression tense. Arya stood beside her. "I will guard the corridor," he offered. You focus on moving it. Lyra nodded and carefully lifted the module. A soft hum filled the vault. She wrapped it in a protective case that blocked its glow. Arya positioned himself at the door, sidearm ready. As Lyra left with the module, Arya watched the corridor. He felt the weight of the moment. The stolen device was safe again, but the attack showed someone was determined and strong. He knew they must find Lucan Mercantile's base to stop further strikes. When Lyra returned, they shared a resolute look, a human and an alien, bound by choice, ready to face the growing threat together. The real fight to protect both worlds was only just beginning. Princess Lyra and Captain Arya Jennings stood in the Grand Council chamber. Tall pillars of pale marble surrounded them, and crystal chandeliers cast soft light. Lyra's senior advisors sat at a long table, their faces serious. Arya felt a tense silence as they waited. Lord Thanis cleared his throat. "Your Highness, we must address the ongoing threat. Lucan Mercantile operates beyond our borders. They will not stop until they recover the X8. He tapped his data tablet. They have bases in the Helion Belt. Lyra folded her arms. Then we must strike first, she declared. Captain Jennings, can your fleet aid in this mission? Arya straightened. Yes, Princess. The Odyssey and its escort ships can deploy a strike team. He paused. But we need precise locations to avoid civilian harm. Thanis nodded. Our scouts located one mercantile refinery on asteroid H42. They process weapons stocked there. Another advisor, Lady Vesh, spoke up. A direct attack could alert other bases. We should send diplomats under a flag of truce, then seize the site. Lyra looked at Arya. What do you think, Captain? Arya considered. A diplomatic approach risks betrayal. They already attacked us once. I suggest a covert raid. We take the base quickly and leave before they can react. Lady Vesh frowned. That is risky and dishonorable to our traditions. Lyra held up a hand. Enough. She turned to Arya. Your plan fits human tactics. Then to her advisors. We combine both. A small diplomatic delegation will approach under truce. Meanwhile, a covert team led by Captain Jennings will secure the base. The advisors exchanged uneasy glances but fell silent. Thanis bowed. As you command, Princess. Lyra smiled at Arya. You will lead the strike team. Lady Vesh will lead the diplomats. Both groups depart at dawn. Arya bowed respectfully. I will prepare my team. As he left the chamber, Lyra whispered, May fortune guide us both. In the shuttle bay, Arya's choice squad gathered. The team included human Marines and Vela Prime Special Forces, each armed with energy rifles and wearing light armor. Sergeant Tala, a tough Vela warrior, approached Arya. Captain, we are ready, she said. Her blue armor was marked with her clan's crest. Arya nodded. Good. We depart in 1 hour. Our mission is to secure the refinery, capture any weapons, and prevent further mercantile attacks. He paused. We move fast. No civilian casualties. Understood. Understood, Tala replied, and the squad echoed the command. Meanwhile, Lady Vesh stood with Lyra in the Grand Plaza of the capital. Alien diplomats and mercantile envoys gathered around a white marble table. Lyra wore a simple robe of light blue, her crown removed to show trust. Vesh spoke calmly to the envoys, offering peace and cooperation. Lyra watched the human and alien worlds collide in this tense moment. Back in the shuttle bay, Arya led his team into the shuttle's hold. He checked his sidearm, and the map of H42. The asteroid base lay hidden in a crater. Remember, he said quietly, we move silently. Hit the command center first, then the depot. Synchronize with the diplomat's arrival. The shuttle doors closed, and the engines roared. As they launched into space, Arya looked back at the royal starship and thought of Lyra's brave stand. The mission would test their bond and determine the fate of both worlds. A human and an alien princess, united by choice, now risked everything to protect peace. The small shuttle glided through the silent void toward asteroid H-42. Inside, Captain Area Jennings checked the holomap again. Red markers showed the refinery's key sections: the command center, weapons depot, and power core. Sergeant Tala and the rest of the mixed human-alien squad adjusted their gear. 10 seconds to drop, Tala said, her tone steady. Area nodded. Remember, we move fast. Stick to the plan. The shuttle's ramp lowered with a hiss, revealing the crater's dusty surface. Below, the mercantile refinery sat like a dark fortress carved into the rock. Its towers and pipes stretched upward, steam rising into space. Area led his team onto the landing pad. The Vela Prime soldiers activated their stealth cloaks, making their armor slightly dim. Human Marines followed his lead, crouching behind crates and machinery for cover. "Move," Area whispered. They dashed across the pad, silent as shadows. Area's heart pounded, but his voice was calm as he directed the team. They reached the refinery wall and found a service hatch. Area placed his hand on the scanner. The hatch clicked open. The squad slipped inside. Inside the narrow corridor, dim lights flickered. The air smelled of oil and hot metal. Area raised his flashlight and led, pointing at the command center door ahead. Tala tapped the comm. "Diplomatic team should arrive soon." Area acknowledged. "Good. We only have minutes." He signaled, and the squad moved forward. 2 guards stood at the command center entrance. Area held up a finger. He crept forward and tapped one guard on the shoulder. The guard turned, and Area used a quick chokehold. The guard went down silently. Tala and another soldier subdued the second guard. Area grabbed the keycard from the fallen guard's belt and swiped it at the door panel. The door slid open. Inside the command center, consoles and holoscreens glowed. Area raised his weapon. "Clear," he said. His team moved in, securing the room. Area typed commands on the main console. "Lock down the complex," he ordered. "Disable communications." The screens flickered as systems obeyed. Outside, alarms began to blare. Red lights flashed along corridors. Area's team moved next to the weapons depot. The depot door was heavy. Area tapped in an override code from the console data. It opened with a hiss, revealing racks of energy rifles and crates of ammunition. He scanned the room. "Load what you can carry," he said. "Destroy the rest." The squad worked swiftly. Soldiers lifted rifles and ammunition belts. Others set charges on the unused crates. Tala placed a small device on one crate. 3 minutes to detonation, she whispered. Area nodded. "Good work." Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the corridor. More mercantile guards arrived. Area raised his voice. "Positions." His team took cover. Energy blasts lit the room. Area returned fire, precise and controlled. The Vela soldiers flanked the enemy. In moments, the guards were down. Area radioed. "Depot secure. Charges are set." Outside, the diplomatic team's shuttle landed. Lyra stepped onto the pad, her blue robe flowing. She carried no weapons, only a small device in her hand. Area watched from the depot door. Lyra raised the device and pressed a button. The charges inside the depot exploded in a controlled blast, destroying the crates but leaving the structure intact. Smoke and sparks filled the air. Area and his team emerged. Lyra approached him, concern in her green eyes. "Are you all right?" she asked. Area smiled, clapping her hand on her sidearm. "We are. The depot is neutralized." Lyra nodded. Now the next step. She activated her comm. "To all mercantile personnel, you are under the protection of the Vela Prime Empire and Earth. Lay down your arms, or face consequences." Her voice carried across the refinery. Soldiers froze. The human and alien forces stood together, a united front. Area looked at Lyra with respect. The mission was far from over, but their alliance had proven strong under fire. A human captain and an alien princess, chosen by fate, now fought side by side. As Princess Lyra's voice echoed across the refinery, the mercantile soldiers hesitated. Some looked at their leaders for orders, but seeing the armored humans and Villa Prime guards united, they slowly dropped their weapons. Their rifles clattered on the metal floor. Lyra stepped forward, her calm presence shining through. "You are safe," she said. "We ask for no more violence." She gestured to Arya. "Captain Jennings, escort them to the holding area." Arya nodded and signaled his team. The mixed squad formed 2 lines, creating a corridor. The surrendering soldiers walked between them, hands held high. Lyra and Arya watched as they were led to secure cells in the command center. Inside the command center, Lyra and her advisors met with Arya. The freed prisoners sat calmly, some speaking quietly among themselves. Lady Vesh and Lord Thanos joined them. Lyra addressed her court. "The threat to our worlds is clear. Lucan Mercantile attacked us to steal the X8. Now we hold their people and their secrets." Thanos bowed. "What is your command, Your Highness?" Lyra looked at Arya. "We must find their leader here and learn who ordered the attack." She stepped to a console and brought up a list of prisoners. One name stood out: Commander Raylan. Arya pointed. "Raylan is a known mercantile operative. He oversees security at this base." Lyra tapped her comm badge. "Bring Commander Raylan to the table." Moments later, a tall man in a dark uniform was escorted in. His eyes were cold as he stood before them. Lyra faced him. "Commander Raylan, who ordered the raid on my ship." Raylan's gaze flicked to Arya. "You are a guest here, Princess. I know nothing of this." His voice was steady but defiant. Arya stepped forward. "We have evidence of your involvement. Mercantile shipments, communications logs. You will cooperate, or we publicize your crimes." Raylan's shoulders tensed. He glanced at the prisoners in the cells, his subordinates. He sighed. It was Theodore Marin, the head of Mercantile. "He fears our union with Earth will hurt their profits." Lyra's face grew stern. "Marin is powerful. He controls trade routes and weapons deals." She turned to Arya. "We must stop him." Arya nodded. "We need Marin's location. His flagship is likely near the Helion Belt. If we strike there, we end this threat." Thanos bowed. "We will prepare the fleet." Lady Vesh added, "We can send a message offering safe surrender, but we should be ready for battle." Lyra looked at Arya. "Will you stand with me on Marin's flagship?" Arya offered his hand. "Always, Princess." Lyra took it, their alliance sealing stronger. Outside the command center, celebrations began. The defeated mercantile soldiers were given water and food. Human crew and Villa Prime guards shared quiet smiles. Arya watched as Lyra moved among the troops, offering words of comfort. As night fell over the asteroid base, Arya and Lyra stood together on the landing pad. Stars shone brightly against the dark sky. The damaged refinery glowed with emergency lights. Lyra placed her hand over Arya's. "Thank you," she said softly. "Your courage saved my people." Arya squeezed her hand. "And your trust gave me purpose." They looked toward the horizon where the Odyssey and the Royal Fleet waited. Tomorrow, they would launch their final assault on Theodore Marin, a human captain and an alien princess, bound by honor and choice, prepared to face the galaxy's greatest threat together. Before dawn, the Allied fleet gathered above the Helion Belt. Human frigates and Villa Prime cruisers formed a sharp line in space. Princess Lyra stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Astra Royal. Captain Arya Jennings joined her, his uniform crisp and his resolve firm. Together, they prepared for the final strike. Lyra raised her hand. "Boarding team, deploy," she ordered. Below, shuttle bays opened, and small craft streamed toward Theodore Marin's flagship, the Mercantile Pride. Arya led the boarding party, a mix of human marines and Vela elite forces, each side by side. Their boarding shuttle docked silently with the enemy hull. Magnetic clamps locked them in place. The hatch opened, and Lyra stepped out first, the X-8 module secured at her side. Aria followed, weapon ready. The corridor lights flickered, and the air smelled of recycled metal and power cells. Guards appeared at the far end of the corridor. Aria signaled go. The team moved like shadows. Energy rifles fired bright bursts. Human Marines used cover drills, while Vela soldiers flanked the enemy. In moments, the corridor was clear, bodies slumped but unharmed after non-lethal hits. Deeper inside, they reached the central elevator. Lyra pressed the command panel. The lift carried them up toward Marin's command deck. Aria watched the floor indicator climb. "Be ready," he murmured. "He will not surrender easily." The doors opened to a grand chamber bathed in red emergency lights. At the far end stood Theodore Marin himself. He wore a dark uniform and gripped a pistol. Behind him, consoles showed charts of interstellar trade routes. He looked older than his rank suggested, sharp eyes betraying ambition. "Marin," Lyra called out. "Your crimes end today. Surrender now." Marin laughed. "You think you can stop me? I control half the galaxy's weapon trade." He raised his pistol. "I choose power over peace." Aria stepped forward. "Your greed cost lives," he said. "You attacked innocent worlds for profit." He aimed his sidearm. "Drop your weapon." Marin hesitated, then fired. The blast ricocheted off an energy shield Lyra activated. She raised a hand, shutting down the shield generator at the console. Without the shield, Marin's pistol sputtered out. Aria darted forward, disarming him with a swift hand strike. The weapon clattered to the floor. Vela Prime soldiers moved in and restrained Marin in energy cuffs. Breathing hard, Lyra approached. "Your empire of greed ends now," she said. Aria secured Marin's hands. "We will hand you over to the Vela courts," Lyra added. Marin's face fell, and he glared at them both. With Marin defeated, the team secured the bridge. Communications channels opened, and the Allied fleet received word of victory. Lyra activated a broadcast. "People of the galaxy," she announced, "the head of Mercantile is in custody. We offer fair trials and peace." Cheers and relief echoed across space. As calm settled, Aria and Lyra stood by the viewport. Stars shone beyond, vast and full of promise. Lyra rested her hand on his arm. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Your courage saved billions." Aria smiled, looking at the horizon of stars. "We saved each other," he replied. Together, they prepared for the final step, building a lasting alliance between Earth and Vela Prime. 2 seconds. 1 week later, the royal city of Vela Prime sparkled with lights. Tall towers reached into the sky, and glowing banners waved proudly in the wind. People from every corner of the empire had gathered. Humans and aliens stood side by side in the Grand Plaza, waiting for history to be made. Captain Aria Jennings stood near the royal stage, dressed in ceremonial Earth Fleet armor. It had been polished until it shined. The golden emblem of Earth rested over his heart, and beside it, the medallion of Vela Prime. His eyes scanned the crowd. He had never seen so many different species in one place, all united by peace. Trumpets sounded, and the crowd grew quiet. From the palace steps, Princess Lyra walked forward. She wore a new gown, sky blue with silver threads. Her crown glowed faintly under the sun. She smiled at the crowd, then looked at Aria. She raised her hand. "Citizens of Vela Prime and friends from Earth," she said in a clear voice, "today we mark a new beginning." Cheers rose from the people. Lyra continued, "The one who stands beside me, the human, chose peace when others wanted war. He protected our people, helped uncover betrayal, and stood with us when we needed him most." She turned toward Aria. "Captain Jennings, step forward." Aria walked to her side. The cheers grew louder. Lyra held up a small object. This is the crest of unity, the highest honor of the Vela Prime Empire. She pinned it to Aria's uniform, just above his heart. With this, I name you Guardian of the Alliance. Aria bowed deeply. Thank you, Princess. I will honor this title with all my strength. Lyra smiled softly. It is not just a title, Aria. You have become family to my people, and to me. For a moment, silence hung in the air. Then, slowly, the crowd began to clap. The applause grew louder and louder until the plaza roared with joy. Later, as the sun set behind the towers, Lyra and Aria stood in the royal gardens. Lanterns floated in the air, and music played gently in the background. Flowers from both Earth and Vela bloomed in harmony. Lyra looked up at Aria. We did it. Together. Aria nodded. This is just the start. There's more to build. Schools, trade, exploration, real friendship. She smiled. And you'll help guide us. He chuckled. As long as I'm welcome. Lyra reached out and took his hand. You'll always be welcome. Above them, Earth and Vela Prime flags flew side by side on the palace towers. For the first time in history, two worlds were truly united. In the quiet of the garden, among stars and lanterns, a human captain and an alien princess stood together, not as strangers from different worlds, but as partners who changed the galaxy forever. And so, the story that began with 7 words, I choose this human, became the beginning of a new age, one of peace, unity, and hope for all.